Wendy.
Okay, oops. Let's see if this is on. Is it on?
Now? Oh, wow, it's on. All right, so this is the really exciting part. It's before lunch. That's one thing, but this is interactive. So I have a phenomenal panel today. I'm super excited to have you learn about them. And they're going to share their wisdom, their amazing career advice. So we're going to have a little bit talking together, but then we're going to take questions from the audience. So be thinking about your questions as they're talking. And I want to start off this panel just to kind of acknowledge there's a lot going on in the world today. I think this is super important to acknowledge. It is a really challenging job market. So I don't want to pretend like it's not, but we're going to give you every bit of wisdom and advice that we can to help you navigate it, to give you energy to keep going forward. But I think it is important to know, I mean, I talk to students all the time and they're like, oh, Wendy, I've been applying for jobs and it's a lot of rejection and it's a lot of this and that. So I think that's an important piece to kind of think about. You're here today, so congratulations on that, because I think being in community with others is one of the best ways we can get through it. It is together. It is with networks. It is with new friends that you're going to make today. That to me is the best way to kind of keep it together, keep yourself sane. So congratulations on being here. What I'm going to do is have our panel just introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll have some questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, because I think you'll probably have more interesting questions than I could ever come up with. So, all right. So I'm going to start over to my left with Edward Cups. Edward, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Oh, wow, it works. That's awesome. Love it when technology works. So my name is Edward Cups. I'm currently head of product at a startup called Barntools. And before that, I was at Mural. Some of you guys have probably heard of that, as well as fintech in a company called Workiva. I've been in a long UX journey starting in 1996 when the concept of UX as a title did not exist whatsoever. So I'm here to answer all your questions about journeys.
Okay, Lina.
Hi everyone, Lina Reynolds. Hello.
Use mine.
Hi everyone. Yeah, this one works. Lina Reynolds, and the mic is working. Originally from Colombia, I came in 2015 to do my master's in interactive media. I also study biology, and my career has changed, but all of this has built the path where I'm today. I work at Ford in the finance part of Ford Credit. I'm the lead UX strategist there. I've been doing this. I did design research. Previous to Ford, I was at Ferguson construction company. They have a lot of different units there. And even before that, like I would say, it's that 2008 when I remember HTML book back then, because I wanted to be a front-end developer. That's how I end up here. But I have worn multiple hats, like as I mentioned, design, UX design, research, and now I'm doing a strategy.
Dan?
Okay, I think it's on. Good. Dan, he, him. My background is really coming from, currently I'm design director at a nonprofit that's youth-led. Our designers are here. And they're gonna get a T-shirt. So it's that line of people.
They're making.
I didn't force them to come. And then also, I am a senior visual designer at a team of Barrel's team, Vaulted Oak, and then also partner with Cohere as well, which is a Baltimore design agency.
Oh, last but not least, Andy.
Hey, I'm Andy. I lead design at a company called Taxwell. It's two different companies that form together that file millions of tax returns every year on the personal side or the B2B side. Before that, chief design officer at a company called Constant Contact, Led design at Rocket Mortgage, Homes, Loans, Auto, Solar, Rocket Money right down the street, and the rest is on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so on, okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna kick it off. So one thing I think that was interesting when I talked to the panelists last week, or whenever that was, feels like a long time ago, but it wasn't. Every single one of them, and you got that from these 2 minutes, had a very non-linear career path. And I think that's one thing about, and some of the speakers this morning really hit on this space of design or UX or whatever you want to call it, and whatever it will be called in the future. I think you could draw on so many different skill sets, and some of them lean into marketing and comms as well. So just I'll throw it open, and you guys can fight for it. But I think just as someone is, maybe starting in the journey, or in the middle of the journey, or like me, really old in the journey. Okay, that's probably you. You and I are only going to be able to answer that one. How do you stay open to new opportunities? Because I think this is such an important part of the job market today, which is there's AI, there's uncertainty, there's, we don't know where things are going, what things are going to be called. How, when you think back on your career journey, did you kind of navigate those uncertain times?
Ding, hit the buzzer.
Go, Andy.
So I broke in at a time that was very similar to this, right? We were figuring out early days of the web. It was like new technologies coming after each other. And I was lucky enough to work in augmented reality really early, mobile devices really early. And now we're seeing it's a little bit different with AI, right? It's really moving faster, it's accelerating. And I think if you're anywhere in your career, there's a lot, the group chats are full of like just shit piling up on top of each other about AI news. And you can get to this feeling where there's so much to learn, like how do I even get started? And I would just say like, go play, right? We're at a time now where like design, product management, engineering, these are still very separate disciplines, but they're also becoming lenses at which we look to solve problems. And ultimately, as we solve problems for people, that's what everyone that does anything tries to do that works for a company or themselves. We have to now figure out how to apply this technology to help solve problems faster. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is create a good outcome for people. And ideally, this is just accelerating how we can do that. So go and play with it. See what its limitations are today. Find something, a tool, anything, just dig in and learn and see where it takes you, right? Don't feel like you have to follow this linear path of this tool, then I have to figure out how it connects to Figma and then connects with an MCP server. Like that shit's just gonna make you not wanna get started. Just open up Figma Make and play with it. Open up anything, like just GPT. Like we all use, anyone not use ChatGPT, raise your hand. Oh, anyone not use any AI at all, raise your hand.
Start.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to just jump on that a little bit. 100% everything he had to say. What I would add to it is always be curious, right? See where your curiosity takes you. And that also comes down to, how many of you have ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross, the beginning of that, right? Always be closing, right? Well, I would argue always be interviewing. Always. Never stop. Doesn't matter if you have a job. Doesn't matter if you're happy in your job. Doesn't matter if you're looking for a job, you're interviewing because you have to. But even if you have one, always be interviewing. Always accept the interview. Always get there, because otherwise you're going to lose those skills. And you're going to lose and not know what they're looking for, right? That gives you a clue of what is out there. So that's one thing I would definitely really emphasize.
I obviously raised my hand as being an AI hater. I don't know. I think maybe I'm not conflicting with both of your ideas. I like the idea of curiosity in play. I think from my lens, I can be like the Gen Z representative for the room. I think it is an interesting time. I think the curiosity and like intentionality of your interest will connect you to the jobs, or being I think I use the term obsessed, but I think being like healthily obsessed, because I'm not saying this like old 2000s mentality of like got to be up till 5 a.m. every night designing logos. Like that's silly. But I think being passionate about what you do is definitely the lender to that. I guess on my AI tip, because me of like 4 people in the room raised their hands, and my designers, I think for us, because I run a youth-led design agency and we're working with young people, I think I tend to lean out of all of those systems and tools because it's going to limit kind of success in design principles or foundations and understanding, because you're letting something else do it for you, other than the planet effects. But I think I'll end on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as an educator, I think
Yeah.
about that as well. I think finding the balance between the thinking, keeping engaged in a human way also, right,
Yeah.
in a real way, and playing around, I think are both important.
Well, I'll just add with his mic. So it's a difficult time, but I will, like 10 years ago when I started, or whenever, I always also had like a limiting belief of, I'm from Colombia, I have an accent, I'm not gonna get hired, I can't get promoted. And if I could give you one tip, besides curiosity, communication, is confidence. Like when you keep interviewing, you have to do the job of, what are my skills? What I'm good at? Why do I stand out? And if you have that clear, if you have your confidence, you're your best friend, then you're gonna have, like, it's gonna give you like an extra mile, and you're like being confident. You can get out there and start like looking for jobs. I'm gonna ask the question: how many of you have been rejected? Nobody has gotten a job the first time. We all get no's. So we're gonna get there at some point. And related to AI, I recently heard like AI is not gonna replace our jobs. The one that is gonna replace our jobs is the one that leverages the AI. You're gonna find a lot of tools in your career. I can start mentioning all of them. I started with Flash, Sketch, Figma. Then I jump in UX. You have in research. You have Validately. You have whatever you want. You name it. A Qualtrics. So don't let that stop you. If you're confident, you can learn. You can go to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, I want to learn this tool, or I'm going to be using this tool. Don't let that limit you when you're interviewing or when you're applying for jobs. Like you have the passion, you have the soft skills, you're a critical thinker, go for it. So confidence, I think, is a good.
So Lina, I'm going to build on the skills part, because I think that's an interesting, and you kind of mentioned some, but when you're thinking about skills for the next decade, let's say, I don't know, a decade is too long, 5 years. What do you think really for the design, for UX, what do you think the critical skills will be? And have those changed? Lina can answer, or anyone can answer, but throughout your career, have you thought those changed? Andy's going to answer.
Yeah, so I think focusing on people doesn't change. What changes is we spent a lot of the last few years being told designers need to understand the business. And that's very true, right? At the end of the day, we are solving problems that make businesses wealthier, but also like some of them have good goals. And it's not always money, but we do live in a capitalist society, but forget that. The new thing that you need to worry about and understand and start to know is how to leverage technology, what technology does. Because emerging technologies are always supplemental to what we're designing, the experiences that we're creating, and how people actually use them and apply them. So now is a good time to really, not saying learn to code, there are tools that will help you do that, but understand what the code is actually capable of doing, how these systems connect to each other. Systems thinking is really key. I'll stop because I know everyone else will build more things on it.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point that needs to be doubled down on. Designers and researchers, know your medium. If you're working in print, know how colors get absorbed into paper. If you're working in the web, if you're working in product and software projects, know how it's made. understand just enough code that you can communicate. Because in the end, the skill that I would recommend that you need to double down on is communication. I think Jeremy brought this up really big time when it comes to stakeholders, right? Stakeholder communication, understanding how, communicating to your stakeholders, being able to, how many of you have had a design review go sideways because a stakeholder didn't understand what the heck you were talking about? Everyone should raise their hand. There should be no exceptions. So that skill of being a super communicator, by the way, there's a book called Super Communicators that is fantastic about this. Being a communicator, having empathy with them is just as important as having empathy with your user.
Yeah, I think, Jeremy, that was a big takeaway for me too. That's such a beautiful point inside a company is that your stakeholders, sometimes people that you're not happy with, trying to understand them and that they had a bad day or something else is going on in their life. A super important takeaway, yeah. Dan, I think you had a point.
No, I think I feel like I always say whenever I'm going through the hiring process of with young people, specifically how is your design systems and your typography? And I can usually always work with people from there. I think those base foundations and how they're addressing and communicating about it. We just started at the nonprofit. We just started a researcher, digital marketer apprenticeship that's federally acknowledged by the government. We got it in before the freeze, which is great. But I think for us, we started that role because we're seeing that. I think specifically on my team, one, I was doing all the copywriting and strategy, so I was really tired for all of our projects and trying to get the projects. But I think at the same time, a lot of young people are having interest within that, and I feel like that's what makes a designer specifically in the way, if you can merge both of those mindsets, because then you'll go to your senior roles and find your growth, because then you're kind of an outlier in your leadership or what you're offering to a project. It's not just that you can make it or you can do it, if you can think a little beyond it.
I'll just build up on what they said, communication, clear communication. And we have an advantage, I would say we have an advantage, is we can use visuals, images, diagrams. Images speak louder than words. So use that when you can. Just you communicate with visuals, with images, curiosity. Always ask why, I don't know if you've seen the meme, Backstreet Boy, tell me why, a 4-year-old, a researcher, always be curious, ask why. Even when I always do this, is when someone used to come to me, you have to do a landing page, you have to do a button, why? What are we solving for? I just don't go and do what they're asking. I need to understand, you need to understand why are you building this? For who are you building this? The technology, as they have mentioned, get comfortable with the technology. This is the best way to solve the problem. So I think curiosity, communication, clarity. So.
All right, so if we can, I don't know if we have mics in the audience, I can run around. I'd like to go, okay, we'll share up here. Do you want a couple? Okay. All right, so I'd like to open it up for questions from you all. Can be about anything, getting a job, can be about the market, can be about skills, can be about any of our panelists' expertise, you name it. No holds barred. Oh, we already have people, I love it.
Please be hard questions. Actually, I have one of the most easiest questions.
Oh, no.
It depends on you.
Yes, you can connect with all of our panelists on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Is that it? And you show
That should
it.
have been my question.
Yeah.
I've already connected with one.
Okay. Or Discord.
So, I know it's very competitive, our industry right now, and I was curious to know what stands out to you guys in a resume and the sea of resumes that you guys see all the time. Because it's really hard, we talk a lot about the interview process and what to look out for and, always be learning, but how do you even get your foot in the door if there's thousands of resumes you guys are looking at?
I'm the head buzzer on this one.
Hit it hard.
Go ahead.
Process. I want to know how you think. I'm Dan and I will probably disagree on that. I couldn't care at all about the end result of the thing that you built in there. I care about how you got to that thing. It could be the most gorgeous thing in the universe, and it could be an abject failure. Tell me why. Tell me how you learned, right? Tell me your process, and tell me how you engaged with actual people.
And so, Edward, just bringing it back to like the resume as the worst horrible document that we have to put out there. How I don't know if that was.
Well, I immediately leap to portfolio, so I get that. So if you go to resume, what I recommend is very simple. Again, remember I said know the technology? Make your resume so it's LinkedIn friendly. Design it in such a way that it can be uploaded and understood by the system that you're uploading it into. I made this mistake. I have made some of the most gorgeous resumes and CVs in the universe, and they're lovely, and it's just this Helvetica Neue or a Frutiger that was just gorgeous. And the computer went, nag. I have so many columns. I don't know what to make of this, right? So just as a more practical level, do that. But also mention, get your skills up there and out there. Put them out there, look at what skills people are looking for, and make sure those skills are highlighted on your resume and be able to change it and customize it for every single person you send it out to.
Which, by the way, AI is a good tool for that.
Yeah, so I would 100%, I'm the opposite. I would say that so here's the typical process. We post a role, 1,000 applicants apply, they go into a system. I don't worry about the system. I look through each one. And that means to look at 1,000, the resume is 15, 20 seconds. So I want to see like what impact you've had or the things that you've done quickly, right? Once I see that, you go into the next pile, then I look at your work. When I look at portfolios, maybe that 1,000 goes down to 80. When I look at portfolios, I want to see the beautiful thing first. If that catches my eye, it goes into a third review of how you actually got there. What your role was in that, because if like you showed me a beautiful thing that everyone else worked on and you did nothing but change the words at the end, like I'll find that out, but I'm trying to get to like the top 10 or 15 that we talk to. So it's going to be speed to narrow it down, then go really deep on the key ones, and then if it's not right, then we go back again and go through the process again. But I'm looking for like impact right away. Like what do you do? What have you done? How have you moved the needle? Even if it's one job, even if it's out of school, like what did you learn? How do you talk about design through value, showing value? And then we move to the next step. And then I want to make sure that like your shit is good. And then then I want to know that you actually did that and you solved the problem and you made a difference. And when I say like looks good, it doesn't, I know enterprise software, I work in enterprise software a lot. Like it's not going to be like mind blowing. I'm not talking like consumer good, but can I look at it and understand that it was well designed?
I would just add, and actually 1 year ago in the career panel, Rajiv was here and he helps you with the resume and he says, these systems are looking for looking at your titles. Mm-hmm. And I have never changed the titles. I just put, I was a UX researcher, UI designer, a coordinator. But he says, don't be honest, of course, but tailor each of your resumes to the requirements because the systems are going through those titles. Think about you when you're reading news or when you're reading anything, you read the first paragraph and then you skim through the highlights, right? Like the headlines. So think about your readers, your users, how are they reading those resumes and tailor it to that. And the other thing that it really stands out is what makes you unique? Because all of you, I have 1,000 UI designers, UI researchers, but why do I want you? Mm-hmm. And you have to show that in a paper, which is difficult. But after we pass the resume phase, I will say, whenever you're gonna have the interview, you have those skills clear. I'm very good at these 3 things. Ask people around you, what am I good at? And then think about what your experience has built onto that, and add that to your resume as well. I'm very good at asking why everything, questioning things. How can you put that in your resume? So think about those things when you're creating the resume.
Just to add, no, Dan has a comment, but just to add, I completely agree, and I think when you're thinking about the resume to me is the story of you, right, in short form. And all your materials, your LinkedIn, your portfolio should all be some version of a story of you. And as you're preparing for interviews, the best interviews I've ever seen, interviewees I've ever seen, they literally could just say, give me an example of this, and they could tell this beautiful story. I'm very curious. Here was one time when my boss didn't want me to blah, 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 and I did. And so that doesn't come natural. That is something that you prepare in advance, you think about. Of course, you're not going to be reading it in your interview, but you're getting those sound bites. My job in corporate comms was training CEOs. Trust me, they are all trained. You don't just naturally say a soundbite, right? It is something that someone has prepared for them. It's something they've practiced. And so with yourself and with your interview process, make sure that you're prepping. You can prep with your friends, your partners. Even the more you practice, the more comfortable you are, the more it's going to be authentic. And again, you're not making anything up. But I think that you're really just refining your pitch, right?
I was just gonna add, I feel like, especially when you're like right out of school, you might have like a resume, like, I don't know, FOMO, or like you feel like you're missing out on all these specific examples that speak to your skills in your portfolio. I feel like when I was going through that process, you try to build it up in different ways. Like, who's gonna go to bat for you? Are your connections related to the job? Do you have anybody inside that you're talking to already? Especially if you only have like one or maybe 1.5 role like of experience and you just got out of school, or you have none. Like, how much can you kind of run down the company to find somebody to talk to? I feel like really helped for me the most. Or like find places that have your niche interests that you can kind of like really become connective to. I think that's what I kind of did when I was jumping out of school.
Yeah, alumni connections. I saw that you went here, I mean, we're both from the Midwest. That's a connection, right? I'm from Ohio, he's from Iowa. Oh, we're both from, so I think also looking for those commonalities. I also think, I do a lot of workshops with students on their personal brand. People always say, I'll say, what's your superpower? What are you good at? And they'll always be like, I don't have anything. And then they tell me the most amazing thing. I grew up in this tiny village over here, and then I traveled around the world. Your lived experience is also part of your experience. So don't belittle your lived experience, because I think we tend to say, I haven't done this job or that job, and then you'll talk to someone and they have the most amazing childhood. Or they are an organic gardener on the side, or they started a business over here when they were 18. So also think about your experience of you is everything. Okay, I think we have lots of questions, so we'll have to get faster on questions.
Yeah.
Here you go. How you all doing? So we've had like CEOs come out and admit like AI will be commonplace in their workforce and even probably responsible for some consolidation. But I'm curious, how does AI operate in you all's workflows without making the teams that you like look over redundant?
Yeah. So I've reported to a few CEOs that had the same mandate, but ideally, thinking about design in the workflow is how we amplify what we have. And it does impact, if you're looking to hire 20, you may be like, can you get it done with 15, right? What does that look like? So the workflow that we use today is we capture meeting conversations in a tool, Granola, whatever tool you use. It starts to summarize some of what the topics were in that meeting. We then take it, run it into GPT, create some requirements. Once we have that, we actually turn it into prompts. Like, can you turn this into a prompt for something like Figma Make? We will explore Figma Make just to see what we can do. At some point, if we think that idea might be tangible, we just use Figma's MCP server to go to Cursor to actually start to build a prototype that we can then test. If that ends up being fruitful, then we run it through the full process and going back. But then we'll still use tools throughout to like, can we make 5 iterations of this? Or, hey, you know what? We've got this, website design that we want to use. Now we need to make it responsive. Can we use AI to start to build the responsive versions of that? So AI is fully embedded in our flow. Now from a research side, yes, same thing. Like we're doing deep research with Perplexity, but ideally we're using research tools that allow AI moderated research as well. So we want to have our people focusing on the things that we know make sense to focus on, where we're using AI to like explore the options that we could dig deeper in. Yes.
I mean, everything you said is actually dead on correct. I mean, think about it this way. It's an accelerant, right? So where we use it primarily, now we're definitely in more of a startup universe. We're doing a lot of research with people in the field, trying to learn things that the AI may not really know, right? But we can take that information and the AI can really help us draw insights, think about speeding up things that would take days normally, and we can handle in minutes, right? With one of the biggest things, I think, that is the biggest change, I think, is, when Andy talked about a little bit a moment ago, that prototyping and being able to roll up some prototypes, some ideas. One of the things I've always found with AI that's really helped, really, really helped, is I've thought of these 5 ideas, 5 approaches. What am I missing? What have I not thought of, right? So when I tell my students, I have them go through, all of you guys know a Venn diagramming, clustering, you've done it before, like a billion jillion times. Being able to do that, and once you do it and say, now what does the AI think about that, right? Once you understand how to do it, right, the AI can supercharge and point out the holes you are at and speed you up at the same time. So that's how we use it. I'll tell you this, in product, I am responsible for OKRs. I create OKRs. Normally the OKR process used to be a 3 to 4 week slog of gathering things of this nature to determine what we're going to do. I knock it out in I do my interview process with and planning in about 3 or 4 hours now to do that. To get those all determined and then create alignment from there, right? Then the communication part kicks in. It's a super accelerant, and it's as powerful to us and as welcome to us as 3D printers have been to industrial design.
I will just add, from my perspective, it's very, as you may know, it's about all this data, analyzing a lot of data. So in the research world, we have a ton of data. So what you can use it for is leveraging that, out of all this data, bring me some quotes, if you're doing qualitative, some highlighting quotes to convince the stakeholders of why we need to make this change or things like that. So one of them is summarizing, clustering notes when you're doing interviews or any UX research method where you have a lot of notes and you have to come up with clusters, summarizing. That's mainly the things we're using it for. Of course, we have, out there it's Google Notebook, AI, deep research. So before you start doing the research or you start asking why or you start designing is, what do I know? What I need to learn? And ask the AI, check the answer, and then go ahead and do it. That's one thing I would say. The other thing, and I love this quote, I mentioned it, I will repeat it, AI is not gonna replace your role. The person that is gonna replace your role is the one that leveraged the AI. It's accelerator, it makes you more effective, you can accomplish things faster, so use it for that benefit. And then I will highly recommend, don't start from scratch. Don't tell the AI, hey, build the resume for me, I'm good at this and this. No. Come with your resume or come with your email that you need help with drafting and say, this is my email, I need it to be concise and I need it to be engaging. So make it engaging and concise, and then you get a better result than starting from scratch. Or if you have a prototype in Figma, Make, or Google Studio AI, you just grab your prototype and say, this is my design, go ahead and code it or make it interactive so you can test it. So I would say those are some of the ways we're using it or recommend.
Okay, next, let's go to some other questions.
Yes.
Does this work? Hi, I'm looking actually to kind of pivot mid-career. I did QA testing and user research about 5 years ago and just went to do other things. Part of the reason I'm here is to see what's going on now and how to kind of get back into this and get more into it than I was before. Do you have any suggestions? Building a portfolio.
Okay.
You can do it.
Okay.
I just did that. So about 4 months ago, I had an opportunity to move from being a strategic design leader to being a head of product at a startup and how to pivot the career. The number one thing I would say is be brave. You're going to have a lot of imposter syndrome that'll kick in. Do I really deserve to be here? How do I compare to other things? And the answer to that question is always yes.
Yes.
Right? It's one of the things that I think a lot of people really hesitate to, especially if they look at job descriptions and stuff like that. They see these job descriptions with this giant wish list of the 80,000 things that everyone needs to check the boxes on, right? Some people will apply for that only if they hit 100%. Don't be that person, right? If you think you hit a number of those things and you have skills from life, going back there, if you have skills from life experiences, things that can translate, or things you could learn that you know you can learn, just apply. I think you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I think we had an earlier conversation too in the first panel talk of the laundry list of like terminology that's used. That's literally like relatively the same, especially within responsibility, or maybe the outcomes are different. I feel like maybe you can find what has, connectors to QA and that. I feel like project managers are continually owning more and more of those moments, and those positions I'm seeing can really transcend into different offerings. I see that all the time at Barrel in New York, of like how I can see some of my project managers shifting, whether it then goes to strategy or it goes to more like dev work. I don't know, it's really interesting. And I think there are a lot of legs there, and I kind of like that we're in this like influx of job titles, because it's all kind of fake, sort of. Because it's really about like your outcomes and what you're offering, and if that's good. I think it's really interesting because it gives you mobility.
I would just say, like, we keep saying it's a hard moment to get a new job or things like that. I think networking, communicating, using your connections in your advantage will help you. Another thing is, I heard this, I don't remember if it was an article, but she volunteered to do something, and now she's working at Wall Street like a journalist. So sometimes you're like, no, I'm not gonna give my time for free. Those opportunities might end up in your next role. So go ahead and go for it. Another thing is, today you can reach a lot of people with all these LinkedIn, Instagram. Don't be shy. If you want something, go for it. I have this example from someone in Colombia, and he's like, I want to work. He was doing a business administration, but he is a passionate chef. And he wrote to a guy in Paris, and he was like, hey, I want to do my internship there. He was like, no, he's never going to reply. He's working there now. So just do it. Just do it. And again, go back to confidence. You're your best friend. I know we all have imposter syndrome, our inner voice saying, you can do this. Do you really want me there? All these questions. But if you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to do it.
Yep.
Okay, lots of questions.
Hi, my name is Nia. I noticed that a few of you talked about curiosity and intentionality while designing. I'm currently exploring the early career job search, and I'm just wondering, at any point throughout your careers, did you feel like maybe you lost touch with that curiosity? And if so, how did you find that spark again and stay connected to it?
I'm ancient, so yeah, a lot of times. I mean, I think like, and I'm an educator, I'll just say really quickly and then go to the panelists. I mean, I do think whatever you love, your career is long, and you fall in and out of love many times throughout your career, obviously even in life, right? So I think always try to find things, even outside of your career, that energize you and excite you. And I think this is one thing that concerns me about the digital world a little bit is making sure that you're spending time out, look at beautiful things, right? If you want to fall back in love with design, look at art, look at the trees right now. I mean, maybe I'm really sappy because I'm living in Innsbruck, Austria right now, and I mean, oh my God, when you wake up and I see the mountains, that has re-energized me in a way that I didn't know that I needed. And so I'll give it to the panelists, but find those touch points: music, art, people, food, even outside of your work, and then try to do the same thing in your work. Read, watch, be a part of life, I think, to me. Go ahead.
I'm 100% certain Dan will appreciate this. I routinely go through and judge the kerning on signs. I can't help it.
You what?
I see signs all over, and I look and I go, that's off, and I just can't, and I just can't. It just drives me insane. And I know if I'm being driven insane by bad kerning, I'm still connected.
That's your love language?
That is my love. I don't do typography now, but typography is the thing I adore more than anything in the universe. So.
Any other? Go
I
ahead.
think too the idea of like the burnout in that early career positioning is sometimes it really is this like this drop off. I have a talk with all my designers post graduating college of like it's this like pit. Like you just came out of thesis, you came out of doing this big endeavor for 4 years, and then you're like, oh, I gotta work till I'm 65. Like this is what I'm doing now. And I think hopefully less than 65, but I think it's the thought of one, the burnout I feel like really can come from like poor management because they're not using you in a way that feels influential, important to the project or supportive. You're just doing this like thankless grunt work. And I think as well, I always, even when I was teaching at college, your thing can't only be design. Then you're not complete. Like you need a hobby, you need other interests. Like I paint, I skateboard, help run a gallery. Like it's all these other things to do to make yourself whole. And those things shouldn't, hopefully my painting makes more money, but they don't need to make money. They should be just to do them because you love them. And specifically, I feel like too with the work that I've been doing in brand, I start becoming super fans of these studios that I want to work at and start making these relationships with them so then I can work there because I like what their outcomes are, broader and what I want to do.
I love everything about what I do. The hard conversations, the creative tension, the things that most people hate. The everyone critiquing design work that doesn't understand design. That's all opportunity for me. This is what I do. When I'm not here, I'm leading my team. When I'm not leading my team, I'm speaking on a podcast or speaking at a conference. When I'm not doing that, I'm teaching at Kent State, right? I am a student of the game and I continue to learn, and I hope to do this till I'm 1,000 years old if I can live that long. Because when I get up in the morning, the impact that we can have on people, I go to the gym, I cook dinner, I spend time with my wife and dogs, right? That fills my cup in different ways, but when I'm in the group chat, when I'm learning about a new technology, when I'm learning about, that gives me so much fuel to take back to my team that how do I inspire others is what I live for. And I think we have the opportunity to have that impact and drive that. So I have had a hard time to not find I think there are lulls in passion, but ultimately I come back to what we do every day, and that drives me.
Thank you so much for the discussion. I appreciate it. So I'm going to speak for the design leaders in the room that are not early career, as I am. And I'm just wondering, when you get to a point of leadership and you are now managing, leading teams, it goes back to that portfolio conversation. So you don't want to tread on the designers that you're leading by representing things that they get as part of the team, but how do you represent your leadership? And is the portfolio that important, or do you go a different route? So I'm just trying to understand, when you get to that next level, how do you represent yourself well from a career perspective?
The last 3 leadership jobs I had, I did not have to show a portfolio. In January, my role, along with other parts of our C-suite, were eliminated, impacted. And I was in a new market, right? First time in 20 years looking for what's next without having it lined up. And the ask for a portfolio was newish to me, right? So how do I show the work that the team has done? So I think that depending on the project, right, sometimes you provide strategy and still shape the final outcome. So show the where you started it, how you created the North Star, how you figured out the team structure, how you built the ability to collaborate and tightened up that collaboration, how you shaped the final outcome. It's okay, the team's work, the team, the people themselves become part of your portfolio as a leader, right? You want the people to get the next. So don't worry about showing that work if you can at least speak to hey, I wasn't hands-on designing this, but this is where it started. This was a concept that I put down on a piece of paper and showed one of my designers that inspired this and sparked this. So you can show your part in the process and be able to speak to how the business moved the needle based on your input and your team.
Actually, that's pretty succinctly what I was thinking. But to give you an example, how many of you guys have ever used Mural before? Wow. You're welcome. As a director, I led the actual implementation of what we call Project HANA, which was the actual reskinning of Mural. So it had a little bit more friendlier engagement, brought it into, more into this decade, right, from where it was. In that project, if I had to explain that to another company I was interviewing at, what was my role in there, and what Andy just said was just exactly what I did, right? I said, what did I do for this project? So I created a strategy, I empowered the designers, I coordinated with the engineers, I came up with methodologies. For instance, one of the methodologies is look, feel, be, right? We have to make it look like the system, then it needs to feel like the system, have all of the nuance, then it needs to literally be the design system from behind the scenes, right? Plug in all of those design components. So we had to actually work and layer things in and build a design system at the same time as we're doing a reskin. It's not like build the design system, then do the reskin. We'd have to do it all at the same time, right? I told that story, right? So when it comes to that, tell the story of how did you organize it? How did you make an impact? How did you help a member of your team make an impact? How did you advocate for them? But don't so much sell yourself, sell them. They made the victory, you were just the catalyst. But be proud of being the catalyst.
I think I've had interviews in the past, and people haven't believed me, what I'm speaking about, what I'm doing, because I'm younger. But what I started to do too is setting up my portfolio in more of a problem and solution way, and ideology in the beginning, and just walking through that way. And then at the end, kind of, because I'm young, I think maybe I want to prove the point to these people that are older than me, usually that are interviewing me. Of I tell them the money we made, if I'm being honest, or the impact numbers, or the increased viewership, or the really important thing. Because I have sat in interviews and it's terrible when you're I think I was on the 3rd round one time, and the director was then in the interview and he was I just don't believe it. And we just ended. And I was that's great. And I just was I don't want to be here anyways. So it didn't end up working. But I don't know, it's interesting.
All right, well, sadly, I have gotten the out of time notice from the organizer, so I want to stay on time. But I know that, I'm going to speak for my fellow panelists. You'll be hanging around.
Yeah.
You'll be hanging around? Okay, so at the lunch break, if you want to find the fellow panelists, connect or on Discord, which there's a UXCon Discord if you haven't joined it. Has everything you'd want to know. Or on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. I know there are a lot of other questions. Do you have time to have our panelists say one last thing? All right. One word. Oh, that's going to be hard.
Lunch.
What is the piece of advice What did you say?
Lunch.
Lunch. Okay, that's a good word, yeah. What's one piece of advice you would give anyone that's in this industry right now?
Be ahead of the curve. Like, don't wait for the wave to crash on you, be in front of it.
Be tenacious. Never give up. Apply, 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 and do not hold back.
I'll kind of repeat on the things I was saying, like communication, clarity, confidence. I will repeat that again. So just, I mean, you're your best advocate, so just have that clear so you can communicate it and translate it. Passion.
I guess I'll just repeat being obsessed but in a healthy way. Don't let it absorb you.
And I'd say be yourself. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you, Yao, as always, for the opportunity. And I think we're turning it back to you.